The 2022 Serbian movie Vera is based on life of Vera Pešić. Who was Vera and why was she described as Yugoslav Mata Hari? Vera was World War II era spy who worked for 4 different spy networks. Another similarity is that both Vera and Mata Hari use dance in their line of work. But let's start from the beginning. Vera was born in 1919 in Stjarinska Banja near Leskovac. At the time of her birth, Leskovac belonged to the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes, called Yugoslavia since 1929. Today, Leskovac is a town in Serbia. Leskovac is synonym for good food in Serbia, especially the barbecue. But Leskovac remains to be a small town. Vera wanted something more for herself. She wished more adventure and luxurities. Vera was born in an influential family, and her father was the head of municipality. Vera married at 16, which was very young even for the 1930s. She divorced at 19. Divorced women were stigmatized and rejected by the community. The best thing Vera could do was to leave Leskovac. She moved to Belgrade, capital of Yugoslavia. Vera was described as pretty, ambitious and greedy. Soon she secured a job working at Yugoslav military headquarters. Mayor Slavko Radović controlled Yugoslav spy network. He decided to train Vera. Her main job was to identify foreign spies operating in Belgrade. For this purpose, Vera learned to speak German, English and French. She took classes at famous dance school in Belgrade run by Maga Magazinović. Vera perfected dancing waltz and tango. She attended parties in Belgrade to get close to foreigners. Vera became close to the wife of German ambassador. They would shop and attend lunches together. Vera had very clever strategy. She let everyone know that she worked at Yugoslav military headquarters. Everyone knew that Vera had expensive taste. She let foreign spies try to recruit her. She ended up working for Yugoslavia, Germany, Britain and France. She took money from everyone and gave them information in return. It's hard to say where her loyalties were. Yugoslavians paid her 2,000 dinars per month, while Germans gave her 10,000 dinars. German spy Kraus bought a fur coat for Vera. Kraus was German from Czechoslovakia and posed as engineer. It seems that Kraus and Vera were lovers. In the world of spies, it is impossible to tell how genuine their relationship was. Vera got information from Kraus and passed it to British and French. In March 1941, Vera celebrated with Kraus that Yugoslavia signed agreement with the Axis. Meanwhile, Vera was fired from Yugoslav military headquarters. It is believed that her firing was a scam to convince Germans that she was loyal to them. Yugoslavia at that time was a hotspot for spies. King Petar II was underage and had no real control over what was happening. Some Yugoslav politicians wanted to avoid the war at any cost. The country still had scars from World War I. Yugoslav politicians were also divided. Serbs dominated Yugoslav politics between World War I and World War II. Croatian politicians wanted more power. It's no wonder that Yugoslavia fell apart in 1941. On 27 March 1941, Yugoslav citizens demonstrated against the deal with the Axis. King Petar II was proclaimed of age after coup d'etat. New Yugoslav government rejected agreement with the Axis. Vera was arrested as German spy and later banished from Belgrade. Vera went to her hometown Leskovac. Was she still spying for Yugoslavia? Arresting Vera would be a clever move to convince Germans that she was loyal to them. Or Vera indeed switched sides. On 6 April 1941, the Axis attacked Yugoslavia. It was Orthodox Easter. Belgrade was heavily bombed. The 6th April bombing remains alive in the memory of Belgraders. Yugoslav army was defeated in 12 days. People like to compare 1914 and 1941 fall of Belgrade. In 1914, Belgrade citizens took stand and fought bravely. In 1941, Belgrade surrendered without a fuss. There are several theories about this. One claims that Serbs despised Yugoslavia and saw no reason to defend it. Another says that Belgraders were aware of bleak situation. Defending Belgrade in such circumstances would be suicidal. I personally agree with this. Third theory says that all brave men died in World War I and only cowards remained. Either way, Kraus went to Leskovac to pick up Vera and bring her back to Belgrade. Vera's work wasn't done. Now her main job was to work against communists. Late King Alexander outlawed Communist Party in Yugoslavia. Many communists spent 1930s in prisons. King Peter II and Yugoslav government left Yugoslavia and spent the war in London. Huge number of Yugoslav soldiers were in German captivity. Germans installed Milan Nedić as prime minister in occupied Belgrade. I would compare Nedić to French Marshal Pétain. They both had exemplary military careers before World War II, but they both collaborated with the enemies during World War II. Only Pétain was luckier than Nedić and kept his life. Many Yugoslav citizens wanted to fight the occupators. Two main resistance movements were formed, partisans and Chetniks. Chetniks were monarchists and mostly Serbs. They wanted to see the return of King Peter II and liberation of the country. Partisans were a more diverse group. There were Serbs, Croats, Slovenes, Jews among partisans. Most partisans were communists and republicans. In early days, partisans and Chetniks worked together. They later became mortal enemies due to their differences. This is the greatest Yugoslav tragedy of World War II. Together, partisans and Chetniks would have defeated Nazi and their collaborators. Instead, partisans and Chetniks killed one another. And Germans practically didn't have to lift a finger. The main controversy is whether Chetniks collaborated with Nazi or not. Chetnik apologists claim that Chetnik leader Draža Mihailović was hunted by Germans. Germans put price on Draža's head. They also say that Draža didn't have control over all Chetnik groups. One such group was led by Kosta Pećanac. Pećanac openly sided with Nedić and the occupators. Kraus sent Vera to be liaison with Pećanac. In 1942, Vera revealed to Germans that some Chetniks worked with British. As a result of this intel, one of Chetnik leaders, Milan Kalabić, was executed by Germans. Milan's son, Nikola, was one of Chetnik officers under Draža. This couldn't end well for Vera. Vera played several sides and even met with members of partisans. In 1943, many things changed. Churchill stopped supporting Draža's Chetniks and turned to partisans. Chetniks under control of Kosta Pećanac were disbanded by Germans. Germans decided that Pećanac's Chetniks were not efficient enough. Pećanac was later executed by Draža's Chetniks. After 1943, Vera had no reason to stay near Pećanac. She continued working for Germans. In 1943, Vera was captured by Chetnik group led by Vladimir Janković. She was almost put to death. Vera became mistress of Chetnik mayor Radoslav Đurić. Đurić protected her since he was an important figure among Draža's Chetniks. We don't know how genuine was the relationship between Vera and Đurić. Female spies have a reputation of using their bodies to reach their goals. Vera didn't leave personal account of the events. We don't know if she loved Juric or Kraus or someone else. She might have targeted Juric for his relations with partisans. During World War II, Juric was often Chetnik representative on meetings with partisans. Vera could have achieved contact with partisans through Juric. Vera stayed with Chetniks and worked as an encoding officer. The movie Vera was seen shooting from a rifle during combat. In reality, female fighters were more common among partisans. I think Vera was more spy than actual fighter. Members of Chetniks hated Vera and decided to rebel against her lover Juric. Juric managed to capture the rebels and issued them death sentences. However, on the day of the executions, Chetniks from main command arrived. Juric was arrested before the executions happened. This all happened in Sirinska Banja, where Vera was born. Vera tried to escape with her mother. But on 18th May 1944, Chetniks killed both Vera and her mother. Vera was put in front of firing squad. Her only request was to spare her face. She didn't want to look ugly in death. On one side, this was a tragedy since Vera was only 25 when she died. On the other hand, she made it impossible to survive the war. She would have been killed by partisans if Chetniks didn't capture her first. Vera destroyed many documents concerning her collaboration with Germans. Many things about Vera will remain secret. We don't know when, if, she stopped working for British and French. Germans tried to negotiate with Chetniks to save Vera's life. This means that Germans still saw Vera as their asset. Juric managed to escape from Chetnik captivity and he joined partisans. Did Vera's death push Juric to join partisans? No, Juric had close contacts with partisans even before he met Vera. Afterwards, Juric became one of partisan commanders. He participated in the liberation of the country. After the war, Juric continued serving in the Yugoslav army. This is another controversial topic in former Yugoslavia. Non-Serbs claimed that all Serb partisan fighters died during the war, and that former Chetniks joined partisans to save their heads in the final months of the war. This isn't true. Many Serb partisans were never members of Chetniks. But some were members like Juric. Juric wrote a book about his war experiences. Vera's life and work remained in obscurity. She didn't achieve the fame of Mata Hari. Only recently Vera became the main character of books and of film. I think this became possible because enough time has passed. Still, people in former Yugoslavia are very passionate about World War II history. Serbs remain divided between partisan and Chetnik supporters. What do I think about Vera? Vera made a huge number of mistakes, though she was brave when faced death. I think we have too little information to give final judgment. We have to remember that Vera was neither naive nor innocent. Her actions brought death to many people. The true victim of the story is Vera's mother. She was executed for something her daughter did.